Okay, if you're like me and you own a Prophet 6, you saw the release of the new Prophet 5 Rev 4, you saw them turn the vintage knob, and you immediately thought, oh my god, that sounds good, and how can I get that on my Prophet 6? Well, taking some inspiration from the website voicecomponentmodeling.com, I did something similar here with the Nord Modular that I've kept around as a little Swiss Army MIDI utility guy. Kind of an expensive MIDI utility there. But let's go ahead and look at the patch. So in this patch we have some sequencers set up. And every time I strike a key on the Nord, it will sequence through, and each of these steps in the sequencers models one of the voices. Now I also have used the morphing function of the Nord Modular. You can morph up to 25 parameters. So I've kind of randomly picked which parameters I wanted to morph. And the morph here is serving as the basis of my vintage knob. If I turn the vintage knob up, I'll deflect away from these kind of nominal deflections, and I'll deflect into, some kind of crazy sounding tones. All right, so I got a patch here on the Prophet. I'm gonna go ahead and switch to it to initialize it. No effects, no slop, no stereo spread. And I'll go ahead, I'm gonna strike the key, repeat a key repeatedly. You'll hear it's pretty consistent, right? And if you add some slot to it, let's say this is about 25%, you might hear things sound different. However, if we strike the same note from the Nord, you'll hear it sound a little bit different because we're sending MIDI messages that are deflecting oscillator to fine pitch. That's the only thing that's available to us as far as pitch. We can't deflect oscillator 1 because we don't have a MIDI parameter for fine control of that. I've got the filter frequency and a couple of envelope things that I'm doing here. All right, so to go back and hear it again on the Prophet, I have to re-switch the patch because I have to clear it of any MIDI parameters that the Nord sent. So now if I play some chords, it's pretty tight. Slop, a little bit. Now, if I go to my Nord and I put my morph knob, my vintage knob, which is through the morph, give it about 25%. I'm going to do some notes here from the Nord, and because I don't have an octave, I'll do it over here on the Prophet. Morph it up to 50% vintage. Here's 75% vintage using the morph knob. And now if I strike those notes again, you'll hear they're different every note. What's interesting is once I send a new set of note parameters, you'll hear them here if I trigger it from the Prophet. Now if I advance the note parameters, that sounds pretty unique. This has it set like that for every voice. The Prophet, the Nord. And by the way, I'm going to clear the morph knob to 0. I'm going to slop the Prophet 6 up to 50%. It sounds totally different. Slap down. Take the vintage up to like 65-ish. Anyway, kind of interesting.